Good afternoon. Welcome to all of you that have joined us for this starting session of our webinar series, Jumpstart Your Farm Business with USDA in New Hampshire. It is now 12 o'clock, so for the sake of time, we will get started. A few housekeeping items to start. Your microphone and camera are disabled, so please drop any questions or comments in the chat and we'll cover them at the end if we have time. Otherwise, we'll follow up to answer any questions. This will be recorded and the recording will be on the New Hampshire NRCS YouTube page. Feel free to hop over there and subscribe to get updates as we post this recording and upcoming recordings and other videos in the future. So this series includes the Farm Service Agency, the Natural Resources Conservation Service, Rural Development, and Risk Management Agency. Jeremy, if you could go to the next slide and we'll introduce the speakers.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Andrea Bai, and I work with the Farm Service Agency out of the New Hampshire State Office in Concord. In my role as the Beginning Farmer Coordinator, I work with individuals to navigate various USDA programs and resources by listening to their goals and priorities. And from there, I'm better able to direct farmers to resources and referrals that best meet their needs.
And my name's Tabitha Edwards. I work with the Natural Resources Conservation Service as the State Outreach Coordinator and the Civil Rights Committee Chair. So in those roles, I work on extending outreach to all customers with an emphasis on historically underserved groups like beginning farmers and many others, and we'll cover those definitions through this presentation.
Yeah, hi, this is Bill Ferris. I work with the Risk Management Agency. I'm located in, the office is in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I live in West Virginia.
Hello, I'm Tracy Rexford with Rural Development and filling in for Ken Yearman, our business director, as he wasn't able to make it today. So nice to see everyone.
And next slide, please, and Andrea will kick it off.
All right, I just want to start off by acknowledging the USDA Civil Rights Statement, and in accordance with federal civil rights law and U.S. Department of Agriculture civil rights regulations and policies, the USDA, its agencies, offices, and employees, and institutions participating in or administering USDA programs are prohibited from discriminating based on race, color, national origin, religion, sex, gender identity, including gender expression, sexual orientation, disability, age, marital status, family and parental status, income derived from a public assistance program, political beliefs, or reprisal or retaliation for prior civil rights activity in any program or activity conducted or funded by USDA. There's more information in the non-discrimination statement link below should you have any questions. So one of the reasons that our team here today wanted to have this webinar, we're the group of beginning farmer and rancher champions for the state of New Hampshire. We understand and acknowledge that it can be a little bit overwhelming navigating all of the information that's available online. So we really wanted to just familiarize everyone with who we are as an agency and introduce some of the programs for you to get either started farming or to grow your operation. And today we're just going to provide a high-level overview of who we are as agencies. And then in the next 4 weeks, we're going to take a deeper, each agency will take a deeper dive into the programs that they have. And this includes, but isn't limited to farm loans, crop insurance, conservation programs, and disaster assistance, just to name a few. And so we hope that you'll join us over the next couple of weeks. But if you're interested in the meantime, feel free to visit farmers.gov/newfarmers for more information. So USDA does have a definition, or actually a couple of various definitions for who is a beginning farmer or rancher. And these definitions are spelled out in our current Farm Bill, which was extended and currently has been extended until September 30th. So we'll wait to see if there are any updates to these definitions. But right now, this is what we're working with. And you'll see in the chart below that so the Natural Resources Conservation Service, the Farm Service Agency, and the Risk Management Agency have slightly different criteria. So depending on the program that you're applying to, the definition may vary slightly. Just to kind of cover who's on the call here for NRCS, it would be an individual who has not operated a farm, ranch, or non-industrial private forest for more than 10 consecutive years. Where at the Farm Service Agency, we're looking at an individual who has not operated a farm or ranch for more than 10 cumulative years. They don't have to be consecutive or in a row. And over at the Risk Management Agency, they're looking at an individual who has not actively operated and managed a farm or ranch with an insurable interest in any crop or livestock for more than 5 cumulative crop years. But for, again, program specific, if you're applying for the whole Farm Revenue Protection Program, they're looking at 10 crop years. And if you're part of an entity, you can be considered, your entity could be considered beginning farmer and rancher if all members individually qualify. And if you have questions on specific programs, you should speak with the agency to which you're applying.
Another historically underserved category that we have in USDA is the socially disadvantaged category. So that includes American Indians, Alaskan Natives, Asian, Black, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islanders, and Hispanic. And that's under NRCS, under the Farm Service Agency and the Risk Management Agency. They include all of those categories, plus sometimes they include women as well. But NRCS does not include women in that definition at this time. As Andrea mentioned, with changes in definitions, they come with different farm bills sometimes, so it's always worth rechecking. But these are our definitions as they stand. A legal entity or operation with more than one person to be considered a socially disadvantaged group, they would have to have at least 50% ownership that is in one of the listed categories, and these are self-designations. Next slide, please.
Yes, then we have the veterans farmer or rancher that's available for the beginning farmers and producers. NRCS has a certain, and FSA has the criteria. An individual who has served in the armed forces, including a reserve component, was released from a service under conditions other than dishonorable discharge, and qualifies for, this would help you qualify for the beginning farmer program, and first obtains veteran status during the last 10 years. Under RMA, as we suggested earlier, an individual who has served as in the armed forces, including the reserve component, was released from service under the conditions other than dishonorable discharge, and then first obtains a veteran status during the last 5 years, at least 5 years. Is a legal entity or legal operation can be considered a veteran farmer or beginning farmer if at least 50% of the ownership in the business is held by the beginning farmer or veteran farmer individual. For FSA, under the Farm Loan Program, the majority of the entity must be owned by a veteran farmer individual unless they are married, in which case just one of the spouses must be a veteran farmer. Next slide.
One of the biggest take homes for today is we don't want to overwhelm anyone with information. We'd really like to encourage anybody who's interested in more information after this to get in contact with somebody from USDA. You could reach out to your state beginning farmer coordinator, that's me, or any one of our champions. And you can also contact your local USDA service center. We do have a link here for the service center locator, so you can find out which service center operates in the county that you have your farming operation in. And in these service centers, you'll be able to visit one-on-one with FSA, Natural Resources Conservation Service, and Rural Development. Risk Management Agency is a bit different in their structure, and Bill will get more into that during his part of the presentation. Just kind of letting you all know that if you do decide you want to come to one of our physical service centers, we'd advise you all to schedule an appointment ahead of time. And if you need any support with interpretation or assistive technology, such as Braille or large print, American Sign Language, or if you speak a second language, please let us know that we can help get those services set up ahead of your visit so that we can best meet your needs. All right, well, I'm gonna do a quick overview of the Farm Service Agency. So the Farm Service Agency is split into two divisions. We have the farm program side of the house, and on that side, a lot of what we do is disaster assistance. And in a nutshell, what I mean by that is if you've experienced any loss on your farm due to weather-related conditions, whether, you know, in the past year, for example, we had a freeze in May that wiped out all of our state's peach crop and affected most of our other fruits. Or with the rest of the season, we had so much rain, we had flooding, and even just excessive moisture. And the year before that, we had drought in most of our counties. So if you've had either physical damage to your farmland or privately owned forest land, or if you've experienced loss in production or loss in revenue, reach out to your FSA office because it's likely that we have a program that can assist you to recover from that disaster. And even if we don't yet, a lot of times we have to collect information on producers who are suffering from a disaster-related loss so that we can bring those to the Secretary of Agriculture to get a declaration in place. But we'll cover that more during FSA's session in 2 weeks from today. We also offer a variety of safety net programs. So one of our biggest ones is the dairy margin coverage program for dairy producers. And we also have various risk management tools for crops that are not covered under crop insurance. On the farm loan side of the house, we work with farmers who have a farm business who may need help getting low interest farm loans to either purchase a farm, so a farm ownership loan, or to get an operating loan to cover their various operating expenses. There are eligibility criteria, which we're going to cover in some great detail in 2 weeks. But the eligibility is slightly reduced. So for beginning farmers under our microloan program, which is $50,000 or less. And we also have a loan guarantee program. Next slide, please. In the meantime, again, the World Wide Web can be a dangerous rabbit hole, but if you're really eager for more information prior to the FSA webinar, I'm just sharing a couple of tools that are available. If you have experienced a disaster recently or even the past couple years, we're still working on disaster assistance from revenue losses from 2022. So visit our disaster assistance discovery tool. And kind of you can fill in these 5 simple questions about what kind of a loss or damage you had, when did you experience it, what type, what was the impact, and where was this loss incurred. Next slide, please. And for anybody interested in learning more about farm loans prior to our FSA webinar, another tool that we have is a pretty new tool called the Farm Loan Assistance Tool. So you can take this farm loan quiz you see here and enter information about your operation and what your farm loan needs are to get you started. In New Hampshire, we have 5 county offices. So in Lancaster, New Hampshire, they cover Coos and Carroll County. Grafton County has an office in Orford. We have a county office located in Concord, New Hampshire, which serves Merrimack, Belknap, and Hillsborough County. And then over on the seacoast in Epping, we have a field office that serves Rockingham and Strafford counties. And then in Walpole, our service center there serves Cheshire and Sullivan County. Our farm loan team is located at the Concord field office, but they do serve all of New Hampshire. And again, if anybody's joining us from out of state or wants more information on their county office, there's a link here to your service center locator, so you can be in touch directly. Just a brief overview of what it would entail to work with FSA, and also when you fill out these forms, you become eligible to participate in NRCS's programs. We'd get you started with this form here. It's called an AD 2047, or the customer data worksheet. And it's a pretty basic form that includes your name, your address, your email, your phone number. And because when you apply for programs and you'd be getting some kind of federal assistance, we do collect tax ID information. Demographic information is voluntary. So if you're interested in setting up farm records, again, we highly encourage you to reach out to your county office first, schedule a visit. And you can either do this in person, or we have a bunch of options now to conduct meetings virtually. Like we're here on Teams, we use Teams a lot to conduct appointments. You can do some of this initial stuff over the phone, but eventually, in order to set you up in our database, we're going to need some kind of proof of identity, like a driver's license, your social security number, for your farm to get your farm enrolled in our system. We're looking at either a copy of a recorded deed or a tax card. And you do not need to own the property, but if you do not own the property, we would need to see some kind of either a lease agreement, or if it's an informal lease agreement, some kind of a letter or note, or just acknowledgement that you do use somebody's land for your farming operation before we can enter that piece of land into our system. And if you're, the way that we set up farm records, a lot of times, most of the time, is how you file your taxes. So whether or not you'd be participating as an entity or in an individual will depend on how you file your Schedule F or any other kind of tax document. So if you have a farm business, it's an LLC, or maybe you have, a trust or an estate, and you want to you're going to want to be consistent with how you participate in USDA programs. So we would need just to see some kind of paperwork on your articles of incorporation, or anything that shows us that you have this entity, ties you to this entity. Once we have that information from you, as you can imagine, it will take us a little bit of time to get everything entered. We'll take the information from the tax card and the deed and the tax map to create a map outlining your farm or ranch boundary in our GIS software. And this will assign you what's called the farm serial number. And this is your kind of ticket to ride with FSA and NRCS programs. This is a prerequisite for participating in both of our agencies' programs. And when you're signed up, it will automatically sign you up for Gov Delivery. And this is our newsletter that county offices send out on a monthly basis with important program updates. And my last couple of slides here, even though we are a federal agency, FSA is pretty unique in that we rely on elected advisory board of local farmers and ranchers in each county office. We really feel like it's important to have those local eyes and ears on the ground to report back local farming conditions. Again, a lot of disaster assistance. It can vary even in a small state like New Hampshire, and just farmers kind of knowing one another to be able to help do outreach on our programs and making sure that we're running our programs in alignment with not only national policy, but the needs on the ground. So we have elections for county committee. There are 3-year terms. And for those county committee members whose terms are up, we usually announce a nomination period, and anybody who has a farm record that we just talked about is there's different eligibility criteria based on whether you're an individual or an entity, but you can be nominated to be one of these county committee members, and you can also vote in elections. And we just, again, do this so that we ensure that underserved farmers and ranchers are fairly represented and have a voice at the table. Next slide, please. So that's my overview for the Farm Service Agency for today. Again, to take a deeper dive with us and explore more about what we have to offer, I highly encourage you to register for Session 3. And in that presentation, we will be covering farm loans, the Emergency Revenue Program for 2022, and that was if anybody incurred revenue losses due to weather-related conditions, and the Non-Insured Crop Disaster Assistance Program, and that's for crops that are not able to be insured through regular crop insurance. And this webinar will be 2 weeks from today, February 29th at noon. And last but not least, if you are not registered with a farm number, you can still sign up for our Gov Delivery updates. This is the link that you can request to have your email address added to be receiving some of our program updates. And that does it for me. I'll hand it over. My contact info is here, so feel free to reach out.
In New Hampshire, rural development has 3 offices as well, and you can always reach out to Misty Cinsagalli, our area director, with any general questions, or if you're just not sure which program to work with for your particular project, she'd be happy to help you get connected with the appropriate contact. Here are a couple programs that may be relevant for your farm or business. The first is REAP, the Rural Energy for America program, which currently has quarterly application deadlines. And the second is the Value Added Producer program with an annual deadline. You can reach out to Ken Yearman, our business program director for Value Added, and myself with any REAP related questions. Next slide. REAP is designed to help small businesses and ag producers be able to install renewable energy systems or save energy by doing energy efficiency improvements. Energy efficiency projects will require an energy audit or assessment completed by a qualified third party. Renewable energy systems require either electric bills showing historical energy use or power purchase agreements if generating and selling the power. REAP grants are reimbursements, so the applicant must be able to fully fund the project for a grant to be approved. Project costs incurred before a complete application is received aren't eligible. And to apply, applicants must get a unique entity ID number and register their entity in sam.gov prior to the deadline. Next slide. To apply for a REAP grant, you must be either an ag producer or small business located in a rural area. If you're an ag producer and also a registered small business, you may apply as a small business if you don't meet the 50% gross income from an ag production requirement. For value-added grants, you must be an independent producer, an ag producer group, farmer or rancher cooperative, or a majority-controlled producer-based business. The applicant must produce and own more than 50% of the raw commodity through product production. There are 2 categories of REAP grants: RES, which can go up to $1 million, and EEI that max out at $500,000. There's also a minimum size project restriction. Applicants can currently apply for up to 50% of eligible project costs if their project doesn't produce greenhouse gases at the project level or if it's an EEI. All others can request up to 25%. Types of projects include grain dryers, reverse osmosis systems, wind, solar, lighting upgrades, digesters, geothermal heating and cooling, refrigeration, and much more. Value-added grants can be used for planning, up to $75,000 to pay a qualified third-party consultant for conducting and developing feasibility studies, business plans, or marketing plans. The other option is working capital, up to $250,000 to pay eligible project expenses related to processing or marketing a value-added product. And that wraps it up for rural development. Thank you.
Hi all, I'm back again. So you might be wondering, who exactly is the Natural Resources Conservation Service? So we are an agency that is voluntary on behalf of the participant. So we don't require anybody to work with us. We're a non-regulatory agency and we're locally led and we're a federal conservation agency. We fall under the United States Department of Agriculture, just like all of the other agencies on this call today. We offer free technical assistance and the opportunity for financial assistance. And we have partnerships and offices all around the state and all around the nation. These opportunities are available to agriculture and forestry producers of all different types, sizes, locations, with a focus on privately owned lands. So we are a size neutral agency. There's no minimum land size requirement to work with us, no income requirements, no profit requirements. So just some things I wanted to lay out in the beginning there. Next slide, Jeremy. So conservation planning is a large piece of technical assistance that NRCS provides, and conservation plans are tailored to site-specific conditions with customer goals and objectives in mind. These plans are created using the 9-step planning process that you can see here on this slide. And the process starts with identifying the problems, opportunities, and objectives, and then moves through the process by analyzing resource data to formulate and evaluate alternatives, and then make decisions, implement the plan, and then evaluate the plan. The process doesn't always go 1 through 9 exactly. Of course, life just isn't that clean. Some objectives may change, which would then change the course of the plan, and that's totally okay. We try to be flexible with producers as we work through the process and build relationships with them. Next slide, please. The Environmental Quality Incentives Program is a really popular program that we've had for quite a number of years. The goal of this program is to address resource concerns, and the resource concerns that we look at are soil, water, air, plants, animals, and energy. So there's technical and financial assistance available to address these resource concerns. Right now, there's about $4.9 million remaining in our Environmental Quality Incentives Program for this year. Some of the priorities are livestock and socially disadvantaged groups. So we went over the socially disadvantaged definition earlier, but I have the categories listed again. Just because you don't fall into those categories, please don't feel discouraged. We take all applications and we just have to work through certain priorities, but money can certainly be spent in other categories as well. So we have over 100 conservation practices under the Environmental Quality Incentives Program. So of course, I don't have time to get into every single one, but we can follow up with some more practices in our full session. Some of our common practices, though, are brush management for invasive control, early successional habitat development and management, forest management plans, forest stand improvement, pasture and hayland planting. So there's a whole variety of things that can be done through the Environmental Quality Incentives Program. Some benefits of being a beginning farmer or other historically underserved category through the Environmental Quality Incentives Program would be higher payment rates. So those individuals would be, and entities would be eligible for 90% cost share instead of the typical 75% cost share rate that general participants would receive. And I'll dig more into cost share rates in our full session. Additionally, under general EQIP, so non-HU, producers would pay the upfront cost to install conservation practices once they're in a contract, of course, and then they would be reimbursed after the practice is installed up to NRCS standards. But if you're a beginning farmer or historically underserved producer, then you'd be eligible for an advanced payment when in a contract. These are all, of course, subject to pre-approval and contract writing and all that. Yeah, that's all I wanted to cover there. Okay, so next slide, please. The Agricultural Management Assistance Program is very similar to the Environmental Quality Incentives Program, but it's partnered with the Risk Management Agency as far as funding sources. So the focus is on reducing risk, and we have a select list of practices which are on this slide here. There's about $195,000 remaining in this program at this time. Next slide, please. The Conservation Stewardship Program is designed to reward producers who have a high level of stewardship already, and then provides incentive in the form of payments for producers to step it up a bit with fine-tuned enhancements, as we call them. So enhancements are things that some options are conservation cover for pollinators and beneficial insects, crop rotation with a focus on soil health, forest songbird habitat maintenance, just some examples of enhancements. Of course, I can't list them all off, but this is a great program because it's a 5-year program with an option for renewal at the end of the 5 years. And the minimum payment is $4,000 per year for each of the 5 years. It's a good program, especially for small scale producers. There's about $378,000 remaining, and a priority would be organic. But again, even if you're not organic, please still consider the program and consider applying. We will accept applications from all different categories. Next slide, please. We also have an easement program at NRCS. NRCS conservation easements actually have a really large footprint around the nation at over 5 million acres. Or 58,000 square miles enrolled. So we've been doing this for a little bit, and I like to think we're doing something right if we have that many acres covered. So NRCS offers 2 different types of easements. There are ag land easements and there are wetland reserve easements. There's definitely a lot of work that goes into easements, and it's a pretty long process because it would be a deed restriction, of course, but certainly happy to connect you with our easement team if you would like some more information there. Next slide, please. So we have a list of practices that we're promoting right now, and it's the Climate Smart Agriculture and Forestry Mitigation Activities List. So this list is used all around the nation for NRCS. And it does not include all of NRCS conservation practices. I'll share more info on where to find all the rest of our conservation practices when we dig in deeper to our next session. But to see this whole document, here are some links to the left. You can access the full 5-page document with all of these practices that we're highlighting. And this document is split into mitigation categories like soil health, livestock, various different categories for mitigation. And then you can also see the Environmental Quality Incentives Program practices and the Conservation Stewardship Program enhancements. You can also see some more information on mitigation categories and those specific practices with the link to the right on this slide as well. The focus, of course, is on reducing emissions and enhancing soil carbon sequestration. That's the focus of this list and all the practices on it. Next slide, please. So the Inflation Reduction Act is the reason the previous Climate Smart Agriculture and Forestry list was created. The target of the Inflation Reduction Act funding for NRCS is climate smart funding. So we are to use the Inflation Reduction Act funding on climate smart practices. The projected funding nationwide is $19.5 billion. And here in New Hampshire, I included an estimate of our projected funding for easement programs, which is over $14 million, For the Environmental Quality Incentives Program, it's over 12 million, and for the Conservation Stewardship Program, over 5 million. And that's just funding that is coming between 2023 and 2026 through the Inflation Reduction Act. And we also have separate Farm Bill funding as well. So keep that in mind as well. Many opportunities to put conservation on the ground, and we hope that you'll reach out and explore what fits best with you and your operation. Next slide, please. So timeline, we accept applications all year round. We can accept applications through phone, email, in person, in our offices, many different opportunities there. We do have an upcoming deadline of April 12th, and that's our round 2 funding deadline for the Environmental Quality Incentives Program. That's the program where we address resource concerns, and the Conservation Stewardship Program, which is the 5-year program, $4,000 minimum payment for rewarding people for having a good level of stewardship. So those 2 programs have a deadline coming up of April 12th with the goal of obligating the funds by May 17th. So that means you could then start the practices if you're pre-approved and move into a contract in mid to late May would be the target. We also have an expedited version of the Environmental Quality Incentives Program. And the goal of that Act Now version of EQIP is to get people into a contract in a little over 30 days from the time that they apply. So we have a consolidated list of practices that don't take too long to get into a contract, and I have those listed here. There's also a ranking pool under EQIP Act Now for the socially disadvantaged groups that we've defined a couple times. So please keep those opportunities in mind. Next slide, please. So here's a visual of how to access NRCS benefits. So it starts with first reaching out. And on the next slide, I'll have contact information for each of our offices, and you can always feel free to reach out to me as well. So at first you reach out to NRCS, and establishing farm records with the Farm Service Agency at the same initial time is a really good idea. Of course, it doesn't have to be the exact day, but it's a good idea to start the conversation early, to get the paperwork done, so then you'll show up in the NRCS system, and it'll be a pretty smooth process if it's all done pretty early. And we also like to have site visits, so those are free. A site visit would be scheduled with a conservation planner. So they'll come out to your property, see what you have, what you plan to do, and then really talk through the opportunities that NRCS could offer as far as technical assistance, guidance on how to complete conservation practices, and then potentially some funding as well. You can decide if you would like to apply for funding. And the conservation planner will walk you through the process. You don't have to feel like an expert. And then you'll be notified if you're pre-approved for funding. You can decide then if you want to enter a contract. So even just an application is no obligation, but of course a contract would mean that you would be expected to uphold your side of that contract, as well as the federal government is expected to uphold their side as well. And so it would spell out what's expected to be done and how to certify practices are complete, and then how to get paid. So that's a simple visual there of the process. Next slide, please. And this is where we're located. So my duty station is the Dover State Office, but we have 7 field offices all around the state. So feel free to grab the contact info for the office that is in your county. A couple offices cover multiple counties. So like our Epping office covers Rockingham and Stratford. Concord office covers Merrimack and Belknap. And the Concord office and the Milford office do work very closely together. So those 3 counties could be serviced by those offices. But yeah, I think it's pretty self-explanatory to get your contact info there. And even if you're out of state or have friends in another state, we have a service center locator website where you could easily get contact info as well. Next slide, please. And I just wanted to plug our upcoming sessions. NRCS's in-depth session is March 14th, but please don't feel like you need to wait that long. If you really want more info, reach out as soon as you're comfortable. And next slide. And here is our non-discrimination statement. Andrea went into pretty good detail earlier, so I'll just flash that real quick and I will hand it over to Bill. Thank you for your time today.
Good afternoon. We'll get this switched over here, hopefully. Doesn't seem to want to expand. There we go. Maybe. Well, I'll just go into this. Can you see the slides good?
Yes.
Yes, we see them.
Okay. I just want to go a little bit into what the Risk Management Agency is. We're servicing the American agricultural producer through effective marketing-based risk management tools to strengthen the economic and stability of, the agricultural producers in rural communities. I've kind of put a link for our web page on here, and if you got any questions on it, you can kind of click on that and kind of work your way around in it. And our goal today is kind of introduce you to it, but we'll go into that a little bit. Below this picture here on the web page is a couple more links that would kind of get you into how to manage the risk, the educational part, the beginning farmer part of our web page. And then on the side, right-hand side, there is the regional office and the address and phone number and email if you wish to contact it. This is who I am, William Ferris. And then next week, Will Barnes, the Deputy Director, will explain in detail more of the different programs that we have and give you some of the stipulations and deadline dates and things of that nature. But RMA has three divisions. One is the Insurance Service Division. It does a lot of work with the policies and developing benefits for local farmers and local community needs. Within that division, the Raleigh Regional Office is located. Like I said, I live in West Virginia and work out of that office. And the production management is another part of the division, which works to develop and test and review crop insurance products, and also to make sure that they're cost effective and the actuarial sound, so that they're doing a good job for the producers in the different states that we work. Compliance works to safeguard the crop insurance program by evaluating and investigating programs, for such things as fraud, waste, and abuse. And then it also makes and recommends, to resolve the issues. See if we can get it move here. I just wanted to put up quick that there are 10 regional offices scattered over the United States, and this gives a list of where they are, and you can locate them if you have questions in other states about different programs or such. But RMA is really the eyes in the field, and we like to work real close with the local producers and grower groups and university and government agencies, so that we can keep the people that are in the policy making informed of all the changes or anything that's going on in our region. The RO provides information on if there's some pilot programs that are put together, and then, like I said, the growing conditions, and we participate with the different companies that sell insurance and their agents. Thought I had this down. The main thing is Risk Management Agency, and the crop insurance helps farmers prepare for the uncertainties that are out there, such as weather, crop prices, commodity yields, and government policies, and foreign market and trading. But one of the main things is trying to make sure that we're aware of all the risks that are out there, and kind of helping to solve some of those risks, or make some benefits to working with the crop insurance agencies. This is the entities of the federal crop insurance program. The main thing is you have the USDA or RMA, which is us. And then you have the Federal Crop Insurance Corporation, which oversees and helps make the laws and regulations. Off of the RMA is also the Risk Management Education wing, and they do a lot of outreach work and promoting different grants that are available to different states and different folks. Then we kind of work where we're working with the private approved insurance agency providers, or we call them AIPs, and they kind of they are the kind of the holder of the policy, and they work with the different crop insurance agents that are out there in the different states. And then they work with the producers and the farmers and ranchers to make sure that they're aware of the programs. Like I said here, the SRA, or the Standard Reinsurance Agreement, and the Livestock Price Reinsurance Agreement are the terms under which FCIC provides reinsurance and subsidies. So that there's a lot of work that's done by that department. Again, I put another slide in there of our web page. This is the full extent of it. Like I said, we can go into it, but it gives you an idea of the different information you can get off of it. I have some QR codes that I put in there, and you can find out a location of an agent or the company you'd want to work with. You can get some choices on that. But also the livestock card that goes through and describes all the different programs that we have. And like I said, Will Barnes, our deputy director, will kind of go into detail on that on the next session. The whole farm and micro farm card gives you kind of a brief summary of what you can expect out of that program. We're kind of working with that so that we can work with a lot more, maybe down at smaller producers, and also in the direct marketing industry. And then also there's a QR code that would give you information about the crop insurance and the agent location. And then we also have one where you can get information about the regional offices that are around the United States. I kind of wanted to go into this. The actuarial information browser is kind of one of the main tools in that if you have questions about insurance of any kind in the state, this is the tool that you would use on our website to go in and bring up information. You'd hit tools, and then you'd go to the actuarial information browser, and that would bring this toolbar up. That would make it so that you could go in and put in the crop you have, select the commodity, like I said, the year you want to work in. You can go pick the type of insurance, is it yield or is it AI, or is it, and then pick the state and the county that you're going to work in, and it'll bring up the information telling you all the information as far as dates and things of that nature, because there are a few dates that you have to know about, like sales closing, cancellation, their earliest planting dates, final planting dates, acreage reporting, premium billing dates, and end of insurance date. So off of that AIB or actuarial table there, you can get a lot of information. It also gives you specifics on the special provisions that are specific to the county that you live in. Maybe the committee and RMA kind of had some rulings that needed to be specified in the county that you're living in. And that was kind of one of the main goals of the special provisions under that. Like I said, everything that we work with in the RMA is done a little different. We work with the crop insurance companies, and then they work with the crop insurance agents. And so we have a locator system that you can use to figure out who you would like to work with in your state. You will go into this website and you can put in your zip code or else your address, and then it'll take you to somebody in the state that you can kind of work with, or it'll give you choices. And I always say to kind of make sure that you kind of do your homework on that, and think about, the risks that are out there in your particular farm. And, somebody, get a hold of somebody that will work with you and explain them and give you the details of the program. Usually they're very helpful and, a good point of contact to make use of. Again, this is, I'm Bill Ferris, and I'm out of West Virginia, originally from upstate New York. I did put in here a local regional food system, a resource guide. If you have any questions on, you can click on that. Or FSA is doing a lot of work with the tax education resources, the USDA programs. And this is another good link that kind of gives you educational information about it. And I guess that was kind of the end of it. I'll turn it back.
Well, thank you to all of you that attended this session, and thank you to all of our presenters as well. I can speak for all of us and say we're all pretty friendly people, and we would love to hear from you on how we could help. So please reach out. Oh, and additionally, if you would like to ask a question verbally, if you raise your hand, we can unmute you, and then you can verbally ask a question. So we'll just kind of hang out. It's scheduled till 1, so we won't cut it off right away. I think everybody that's non-USDA has left, so we can probably drop it.